Hi guys, welcome back to the Shannon Show. So today's video is going to be a spoiler review of Forrest. If you haven't read the book and you've just stumbled across this, check out my non-spoiler review, which I'll link in the description below. The book in question, Forrest. It's written by Kerin. We already know what happens. If you don't know what happens, check out my non-spoiler review, because I'm not going to repeat it. In my non-spoiler review, I talked about like the themes within it, what does it bring up. So obviously kind of like the themes of like obviously we already know it's kind of like a dystopian fantasy novel films. Do you feel like it has the potential to be the next Hunger Games or the next Divergent or the next Maze Runner? I think it definitely has the potential to be so. And if it is to become like this big series, how many books do you think would come of it? Do you feel like she's going to stick to the classic 3, or do you feel like it could be dragged on longer? Also, in my non-spoiler review, I talked about the writing style. I didn't particularly like it. Do you feel like she should have wrote it in first person, or do you feel like it was okay as third person, but perhaps it just should have just been written better in third person? What are you thinking? Do you feel like it should carry on in third person? It should carry on the style that it started on at the beginning? Or do you feel like she should switch it up and start doing it in first person? I just feel like first person is a no-brainer. Like, I just feel like for any book where even if there's more than one character, just write it in first person. Like, don't make things complicated for yourself. The characters, what are we thinking of the characters? I love Sophia. I kind of do ship her and Haven together. I've seen I skimmed a few reviews on Goodreads, and I've seen like 1 or 2 people say that they thought that the romantic element was unnecessary. And I feel like this has been like a debate amongst like books where there's like a female lead or a strong female character that's always like, why does there always have to be like a romance? Why can't she just be strong on her own? And I feel like she still is strong on her own, but like most of us have, you know, relationships and partners. So I don't understand why it's a big problem if there's a little bit of romance in the book. I personally ship it. I ship Sophia and Haven together. But what do you feel? Do you feel like it's overplayed to have a romance in a young adult kind of dystopian film when there's a strong female lead? Or do you feel like there's nothing wrong with it? I'm a sucker for a little bit of romance, so maybe I'm a bit biased. What do you think is gonna come of that relationship? Do you feel like they're gonna last? Do you feel like one of them's gonna die? Because a lot of people died, but I feel like, I don't know, because most of the characters like came in like halfway. Obviously it was sad when, I think it was, I can't remember the name, I think it was Belicia, the old grandma woman. It was sad when she died. Like, I wasn't really that sad when the son died. I think his name was Ezra, I believe his name was. And because we hardly really knew them, for them to be like, oh, they're gonna die, and it was kind of like the main characters. Obviously when Sophia went, I was like, oh, already, like, what's going on here? But then obviously she survives it. She kind of survives the sacrifice. Maiko survives. Do you think that both of them are going to survive till the end? Or do you feel like if there was a continuation, that maybe that Maiko could be vulnerable to dying? What are we thinking? Or do you feel like whatever happens to Maiko, Sophia would find a way to save him? And also, do you feel like the people who died within the book, do you think that was quite safe? Do you feel like that was quite like a safe? Oh my God. Do you feel like those kills were kind of like safe kills, or do you feel like she took a bit of a risk there? I feel like they were kind of semi-safe, but it kind of makes me wonder who's going to be next. Do you feel like the author is going to be quite ruthless in the second book? If the second book comes, it kind of ended alluding to the fact that there is a possibility that there could be a second book, hopefully, if this book does well. And then I guess it's kind of like what kind of happens next. Obviously the cliffhanger, I think Cecilia is trying to like trying to do some like experiment to like heal Haben. I feel like that's obviously going to go to plan. But then again, perhaps maybe they could have a problem, and then that becomes a storyline that they're going to have to resolve. But I think that Haben will eventually heal. But if he doesn't heal, or if the plan doesn't work, I kind of like poses the question of the whole Dove situation, because obviously they kind of defeated Dove, but he's still alive. Like they've just trapped him under the ice, the fangs under the ice. You know, what's the deal with Cecilia now? Does she not have any powers now without the fang? Kind of, does she have a purpose without the fang? Is that going to be a storyline, trying to retrieve the fang, but try and keep Dove under the ice? What are we thinking? And then obviously Maiko, Minari, they're kind of all going off now to like this next village to keep safe. Obviously Simeon's gone now, so it kind of like is now this like Emperor Cassius, I think that's what his name was. Does that mean that he's gonna rule the whole town now? Or what about this Greg guy? Is he gonna step in to his place? Is that like all cut off now and we're not gonna like hear of that place in the next book if it happens? What are we kind of thinking that's gonna go on over there? Do you feel like just like Emperor Cassius is just gonna come and rule that area? Or do you feel like someone else might come in Simeon's place that's even worse than Simeon? Or do you feel like perhaps it could be a positive thing and perhaps maybe a mini rebellion will happen that could be a concept of the next book, that a rebellion in Cronassa happens? And obviously this whole land which supposedly nobody lives there, obviously I feel like that's going to work out, but perhaps that could have its own faults too. So I'm interested to see what happens there, but I'm also interested to see what will now happen after Simeon is now basically disintegrated. And obviously I'm thinking like this could be like the next dystopian franchise. If this was to be made into a film, what are you kind of imagining? I'm imagining like somewhere maybe like it's set in Vancouver, there's like a lot of forests and like with the cave stuff, maybe that's kind of going to be like some really sophisticated like CGI work. And what do you kind of visualize the kind of underworld looking like? I'm kind of thinking it looks like almost like a desert, but like not colourful, but like this purple grey kind of colour. That's kind of what I'm visualising in my head. And then obviously if there's a film, casting, I can't really think of anyone in the industry that I would cast for any of the characters except for Marani, because obviously the first thing I'm thinking is like amber skin, long legs. I'm just thinking instantly Zendaya. When you visualize the characters, you're kind of like taking the cues. I've seen like black hair, amber skin, so I'm kind of thinking like what kind of cast now? I'm thinking like for the Cronassian people, if that's what they go by. For the Cronassa people, I'm kind of thinking like a POC cast, maybe like Indigenous Americans, so either like Indigenous North Americans or Indigenous South Americans, maybe some melanin, some black people up in there. It did say that Cecilia's father had ginger hair, but there are like kind of like POC people who can have ginger hair. That's just kind of my like imagining. Or I was thinking it's either that or maybe like olive skin people, because I'm thinking they have to be tanned at least. And I'm hoping that if it was to made into a film, it wouldn't just be like a load of actors that have fake tan on. I'm just hoping I'd prefer a kind of like a new cast. I kind of get tired of like stars getting recycled. Simeon's people, the ones that have stayed underground, they're all very pale. So I was just thinking the Chronosians would be like a POC cast, and then Simeon and his like pale people would be a Caucasian cast. I can't really think of like who would be out there that I could visualize in anyone except for like Zendaya. So let me know who you would cast in if the book was made into a film, like out for characters. But yeah, I would prefer it to be like an entirely new fresh cast. I prefer it when people pick out new talent rather than kind of like stars that are kind of often recycled. Zendaya, she gets a pass. I love Zendaya, so I would love to see her as Mirani in the film. I feel like she would make a really good Mirani. But let me know who you would cast in the film. What do you feel like the demons look like? I kind of like envision like a kind of like pale kind of figure with like a kind of bluish tint. But then it's kind of like if he was like a from the village, he would have had like amber skin. So I'm thinking maybe like an avatar demon type of look. But I'm not really sure, like I can't, in my head, what are you kind of thinking that like the demons of the realm kind of look like? And then obviously when he like transforms into the savage, I'm not really sure, like I can visualize it in my head, but I can't really say it out loud. Like I'd have to like draw a picture and I'm so bad at drawing. But what do you kind of visualize the kind of like creatures looking like if they were to be in like a movie or something? I'm definitely thinking like some really like sophisticated CGI work. And let me know your overall thoughts of the film. I gave it a rating of 3.5 out of 5. What are your ratings for the film? Do you feel like it was a good book? Do you feel like it wasn't a good book? Are you interested in reading the other books if there is a sequel? And could you visualize it as a film? So yeah, also I'm currently on 297 subscribers. I'm only 3 away from 300. And it would make my whole month if I could hit 300 subscribers. So if you haven't yet, please subscribe to my channel. Until next time, guys, bye!